Records, 419 Haight Street in San Francisco. We're going to talk with Dick Vivian, the shop owner, about records and music and all kinds of stuff. Stay tuned.
We're here at Rooky Ricardo's Records with Dick Vivian. The address is 419 Haight Street, and we're gonna ask him about his shop and records. So,
And who are you?
I'm Jenny O'Brien.
Okay.
Why were the 60s magical? What were the ingredients in the sound?
Well, I mean, they were magical because they were innocent times, depending on where you lived, obviously. But to me, what made it magical was the great music that was available at that time period. There was such a good variety, and, they had 45s that you could buy for 89 cents or 98 cents, and it was a free and easy time period. That's all. I mean, I was in high school at that point. But I think just good TV, there wasn't a lot of negativity going on in the world at that time.
89 cents. What makes a great singer?
The fact that they sing with their own reality. In other words, they don't try to be, I don't like opera, I don't like certain types of music, so maybe it's hard for me to judge. But a singer is someone who sings from the inside in the natural voice that they have, and don't try to, like what they do nowadays is they try to hit every note possible. And I just like a singer that hits the notes appropriate to the song and does it very comfortably and casually.
Who are some artists that never got the recognition they deserved?
There's a lot of those. That would be a whole interview in itself. But some of the people now that are respected they had a lot of hit records, but they didn't get the respect at the time as how good they were. People like Garnett Mims, Solomon Burke. There's a lot of one-hit wonders, girl groups especially, but they just didn't make it when they should have made it. Some of the Motown artists, there were so many that like Hattie Littles, no one's going to know who that is, but that's a perfect example of a great voice that didn't make. Mabel John should have been as big, if not bigger, than her brother Little Willie. Just people like that. They didn't get the breaks of one hit record, because you got to have that hit record to make people aware of you, and then everything else kind of follows after that.
What do you find appealing about almost hits or songs that never made it?
Well, you're not tired of them because they didn't get played that much, and I make a lot of comps out of my store just mainly for me and for fun, and I like to put like the third follow-up to a hit or something that never really got the airplay. And it's just, you're not tired of them, and a lot of them were better because they were record labels would start trying to find a formula for what a hit was, and sometimes records that didn't have that formula were actually better and should have been hits. But people are, in general, followers, so you've got to get that hit record.
That's interesting. What was it like shopping for records at the supermarket or Woolworths?
It was the best thing well, not Woolworths, but supermarkets, corner stores, corner grocery stores, Grand Auto parts stores, they all had they got the leftovers, and that's where you could get the really good records, the records that didn't sell. They were usually 39 cents, 3 for $1, or 29 cents, 4 for $1. And growing up in Walnut Creek, we didn't get all that people had in New York and other parts of the country. So the like New Orleans records, they would show up in these things because they weren't hits here, but they were big hits in New Orleans. So they wind up. So I got probably some of the best records in my collection. I still know what those labels, 39 cents, look like. And a lot of Scepter Wand records would show up. They just overpressed, and they were just left. I mean, the sales at like drugstores. I remember once Montgomery Ward had a 9-cent sale in their parking lot of 45s. My mother would only give me 10 minutes, and there was every VJ record in the world, just big, huge bins, and I had no time to. She was always in a hurry, so it made me sick because I could have stocked up on some pretty valuable records. But again, VJ records aren't going to sell here. If they'd had that sale in Chicago, they would have been gone in 10 minutes.
Do you hear a quality on 45s that you don't hear on albums?
Sometimes, not always. I mean, it depends mono or stereo, but I always prefer the mono 45 versions because they're brighter. And I actually even like, there's styrene and there's vinyl, vinyl is what only DJs will only buy that. And I actually like the sound of styrene better because it was brighter and stronger. And they were built to just come out of your transistor radios. And I've always liked that the most. And sometimes when the albums came out, they had different people master the albums, which sometimes were in stereo, sometimes in mono, and they didn't make it sound as good as a 45. It was just the mixes, basically. So now a lot of the CD companies are trying to do just the original hit mix from a 45. They don't use 45 sources, but they have all the masters so they can recreate that.
Wow.
What happened? Interesting. No.
Interesting.
Okay,
Very
good.
interesting.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's very awesome.
I would follow up with more questions, but I have this list here.
That's fine. You're doing great, honey.
Some of your compilations focus on the 70s. What did the 70s have that was unique?
Well, that was a great time period for me. It was a different sound. It's kind of when funk came in, I always put 69, 70, 71, and 72 all in, or 68 to 72 are like 70s music. Because it's when funk came in, it was more geared toward dance. I mean, 60s records, if they were geared toward dancing, were like sock hop type dancing. 70s stuff geared toward a lot of individual dances and just trying to get people on a dance floor. And so I love a lot of that stuff. I mean, it does get monotonous, but I think some of when it's great, it's great. When it isn't, I just don't care about it. Some of my mixes that I try to make were ones that kind of showed the evolution between 60s and 70s.
Okay. What's an example of some stuff that's...
Well, I mean, James Brown's the biggest example but that gets a little tiresome. On one of my comps I put Inez Fox, You Hurt Me for the Last Time. It's a great record. People look back and say that should have been a top 10 record, and it just wasn't. But Stax Volt, which is another label in competition with Motown, it just had the right amount of punch. Sometimes they get a little dry. They go for the funkness of it rather than the beginning, middle, and end of a great song, which is what a lot of 70s was missing from the 60s. But it was just something, when it hit. When it was like Mr. Big Stuff is a perfect record. Clean Up Woman is a perfect record. And it just has this one pulsating groove, but the vocals on that, they were both female vocals, but they just went just over the beat, and you know, they just went around that chugging beat that was going on, which I think is great.
Okay. How easy would it be to make a list of 50 great, generally unknown soul and R&B albums?
Well, I've done albums. Not easy for me because I've had this record store so long that I don't really know. I mean, if you eliminate all the major artists, at this point in time in my store, there's probably 10 artists that people always want. Curtis Mayfield, Bill Withers, Marvin Gaye, Al Green, Etta James, Irma Thomas, those kind of people, some which weren't that popular at the time, but I don't know how I would. It would be simple if I wanted to do that, but there's too many variables to really do that correctly, I think.
Why the name Rooky Ricardo's?
It means really nothing except for years ago, way before I opened, probably 5 years before I opened my store in '87, I was out for lunch at a friend of mine, Cecilia's, out in the Avenues, and we were talking, and I always like making up like play on words and stuff. And the name Rooky Ricardo came up, and I go, wow, what a great name. And I said, if I ever open a store, not necessarily a record store, that's what I'm going to name my store. So it's very easy, and it's been probably one of the best 5 decisions I ever made in opening this store, is having that name, because even though the whole neighborhood couldn't get it, it was Rooky, Rocky, Richards, you know, they never quite got it, but it's been a name that's known all over the world at this point.
Yeah, I think
like
it's
it or
memorable.
not, that's what I'm saying.
It's memorable to me. What part did Coffee 20 Dance Party play in starting the store?
Well, that's a good question that only somebody that knew would ask. But when I was always a dancer, and I got, not hired, but I got to be on the first episode of TV 20 Dance Party, which was on Channel 20, and it went on to become a really, really popular show. I was on about 100 episodes with my dance partner Bijou, so we would demo mashed potatoes, the pony, or whatever, and got featured in a lot of like couple dancing, which we called a bop in my day. And I was looking for, I had bought 35,000 45s, and I was looking for a place just to fill in my collection. That's why I bought them, and then I wanted to get rid of them. And then I was here on Lower Haight, across the street where my old store was, in Nicky's, which at that time was just a barbecue place with peach cobbler and beer. And turned out that the guy that ran that, his name was Larry Nichols. I mentioned to him, because the point is he recognized me from TV 20, and he was very excited. And he didn't look like the person who would ever be excited about anything. And when he saw me go in there, he just went, oh. So I said, do you think that in this neighborhood there'd be like a retail space that might be available for a while? And he had one. So he let me, and he had a bunch of junk in there because he was planning to open up like a junk shop, quote, and / antique shop. And so I went in there, and eventually he just got tired, and he moved to Antioch, got tired of being because he didn't really sell anything. And then I took over the whole store. So that's how I got that location. But if it weren't for TV 20, I wouldn't have. There's a picture up there of one of the week's regulars, and
Can you dance still? Do you still dance?
There's nowhere to dance. There's nowhere. I mean, I occasionally I get hired for something. Bijou has a bad knee, so we don't really dance. And there are people high school friends that can still, I dance at reunions and stuff, but no, that's done. And I still teach people like their first wedding dance. That's one thing I do to my regulars in here, although with Zoom weddings now, it's not very meaningful. It's always the guy that comes in with the wife brings the guy in to get him to learn how to dance, and 9 times out of 10 it's the guy that can dance and not the girl.
I love dancing, but I don't know any real dances.
Yeah, and that's all we did in there. There's probably 20 different stated dances that were available, soul dances, and then earlier from the 60s. And again, the 60s was actually the 50s, so I'd say 58 to 64 was one time period, and then 64 to like 68 was another. I didn't go the rock route because I didn't really like it, but
Yeah, I heard there were funny names for the dances. I mean, like you said, mashed potatoes.
mashed potatoes, pony, stroll, four corners. There's probably 150 names. The records, well, there's way more than that. I put out a few CDs, comps of dances.
And they go with specific songs.
Well, they go with, yeah, the dance. Sometimes, like with the stroll, that was created after the dance was already made. Same with the Bristol Stomp. And
I see.
they had, the dance existed first, and then they created a song for it, where there's other times the song created the dance.
Okay, so we have a few more questions. Was there a point in the 90s when you weren't sure if people would keep buying vinyl?
My rent was so cheap, and I enjoyed being there, and I'd met so many great people that never crossed my mind. I mean, it was definitely different than it is now, because people, I mean, my clientele, a lot of older people were still buying records, but I never got into, I mean, people ask me, when did you stop liking new music? And I'd say it was like early 80s, so I kind of didn't have anything to do with all. And now it's really funny because so many record labels are putting out songs that sound exactly like they were from the early 80s or 70s. Sweet Soul is one of the categories, but
I heard some the other day in a store.
yeah. And they're kind of trying to duplicate that with better fidelity, and sometimes it's great. Mostly I don't like it, but that's just me.
Yeah, I like stuff that has more soul to it.
That's kind of it. Yeah, a lot of machines are involved with this music.
What do you think drives collectors to own records?
Well, they get the fever, I think. And a lot of people don't remain collectors. They start thinking they're gonna, and they gung ho, and now with the worst thing that's killed, at least my business, is Discogs and YouTube, because people don't realize that they're asking for a $500 record, and now it's everybody's knowledge that that's a $500 record. In the old days when I had my store, I was selling $500 records for $5 because nobody knew. We didn't have any way to look anything up. So now everyone comes in on their phone, looks every single $2 record up. Not everyone, not every song, but, and then they listen to it on their phone. So they're destroying the whole purpose of records, because on your phone you're hearing a distorted version of what it really is. So when Spotify plays something, and YouTube, all these collectors all over the world are now showing off their collection, which they probably spent years amassing. So they have $3,000 45s are playing, and then people just come in like they're going to come in here and get it for $2. Drives me bananas.
They don't even know it's rare.
No. And you can look it up, but they just they think that they can. They think, because I used to really give records away practically, they think they can come in here and still do it. And fortunately, with all the various help that I have and all, I mean, I'm not that big on the computer, but I know how to look up a record.
How much do dedicated collectors buy from you versus casual shoppers?
I don't really have a lot of dedicated collectors come in anymore because I'm not of their caliber. Like girl groups, which used to be a big specialty, just sit here now. Motown.
I like girl groups.
I know they do, but nobody buys them. $5 or $10, they don't care. And I would say I don't have very many. There's other stores in the neighborhood that I'd rather refer to them for dedicated collectors, because I really don't like. Jazz people are the hardest to deal with. They're just, everything has to be perfect. And I mean, I got a really good jazz buy-in that we made so much money off of, because they don't flinch at a $500 record. And it's all about, and then you get into the like Beatles to me, or like I don't even want to sell the Beatles, because there's 1,000 versions of each record. And people sometimes want to nitpick and get just to the right version, and I just want to sell good music so that people can take it home, put it on their record player, and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever do a regular radio show?
No. I have to know my audience, and I used to DJ a lot, as long as I could see the people in front of me and how they respond, but now with all the ways you can do that stuff, it just doesn't appeal to me, because I don't want to be judged on playing a common record. I want to play what I love. My gift and my way of DJing is those CDs. People can, for $10, they take usually 28 songs home, and they can enjoy themselves.
Yeah, the radio stations up in the country, you can play what you want on some of them.
I know I had one of my favorite customers, I don't see her anymore, lived up there, and she was my age group, and she had a huge soul following. I forget what channel she was on or what she did, but...
Yeah, the local radio in small towns, like you can get your own hour, and I used to listen to a guy who played, I guess, soul music, I don't know. It was good. How has San Francisco changed in the time you've been here?
Well, it's all different now with what's going on, but it became way too crowded with way too many techie people that kind of ran the show for a while, and now that they're evaporating, I just feel like, I mean, after all this tragedy and everything is over, that the city will probably regain some of the soul that it used to have.
I hope so. It used to be really artistic here, and there was a lot of variety.
Yep, no more.
I feel like money kind of
You've seen one
changes
Patagonia, you've seen them all.
Yeah, I don't know why money would take away personality, but...
Well, they probably didn't, a lot of them didn't have personality to begin with. And then they got spoiled because they made all this instant money, so they thought that they were in charge. It's, I think, the best, most polite way to put it.
Yeah, I hope they let the shop owners stay in their shops, like stop raising rents. And
I don't know what's going to happen.
That
I'm just glad that I hate to say that I'm
Retrofitting.
glad I'm old, but I just went through life at the right time period of where now that I'm getting older, it's like whatever happens, happens. I just feel sorry for younger people that never got to experience that.
yeah, it feels like it was more fun in the old days sometimes. But it could be fun again. Let's see, Rooky Ricardo's has been open for 33 years. If you could go back to 1987 and start again, what would you do differently?
I would have sold the records for what they were worth. Oh my God, I'd be retired living in, I'd be a tech bro in a mansion. I mean, I can't tell you how many $500 45s that I sold for $2. I mean, and it doesn't bother me except for when I'm broke, and then I'm really irritated. But, you know, you didn't know then. People used to, nobody would come into my shop locally, but I was world famous, especially in Europe and England, because I was giving the records away without knowing it. I didn't pay a lot for them, but the minute I hear a British accent with their white tennis shoes and their tight-fitting Levi's, I'm like, I'm so cautious in dealing with them, because all they're looking for is the find. The $300 record that I missed, which I don't think I do anymore. And then when they say brilliant 10 times, I know that they pulled the wool over my eye.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Oh, Rooky, brilliant. Rooky.
Is there anything you want to add?
No, but I'm really glad you're asking me questions that are different from normal questions. But I'm very happy to be here still. There's always somebody new that comes along, like David, and there's always new people that I really like. I've learned how to not, I was a waiter for 35 years, so I kind of know how to deal with people, and I'm better at moving them on, because I don't think I'm quite as nice as I used to be, but that also could come with age. But I'm still very happy here, and I actually like this side of the street more than the other side, even though I miss the space. It's just a better world over here. I have a back door, people don't hang out in front so much, and I mean, there's always new people. I've got two 15-year-olds. One is a girl group, rock collector, and the other one's I'm doo-wop. I collect doo-wop. And they were both in the store one day, and I tried to introduce them. It didn't work. But they bring in, one of their parents brings them in, and they, whatever they can spend, they buy great stuff.
Wow.
They know what they're doing. And that's encouraging to me, because I know I was buying records by the time well, my mother used to get them for me, but by 10 I was definitely a full-fledged 45 buyer.
Yeah, there'll always be another bunch.
Batch.
Thank you, Dick.
Oh, it was my pleasure. You're very charming.
You too.
Good records. Good records.